this demonstration, we're going to go through the Compliance tab of a license record. I'm going to navigate to Licenses, my All Licenses view. And I'm going to open up our top license here. And we'll be talking about just this Compliance tab here on the license record. This first box you see here, where it says Last Updated, this would be the last date and time that this license was reconciled. The compliance status would be either compliant, at risk, or not tracked. In our case, we are compliant on this license. This first section here, entitlements from purchases. So the purchases that have been processed to this license would be totaled, and this would be the number of entitlements that you have. You can also populate extra entitlements here. As a note, if you do populate extra entitlements, having some kind of documentation for those entitlements would be considered best practice. The total of your entitlements from purchases and any extra entitlements that you have added, that total would represent your total entitlements. The consumed entitlements is the actual consumption based on the license type, the use rights and rules, restrictions, and many different properties inside the license. And you can see that calculated consumption is in this bottom box here as well. Total entitlements minus the consumed entitlements would equal your available entitlements. In this case, I'm running at a surplus of 10. If we were consuming more than we had purchased, this bar would be red and these would be a negative number. The compliance status would also show at risk. There are entitlement limits for a license that can be set. 90% of the time, I see those set to the default as purchased. That means what you purchase minus what you are consuming would be how you want your license represented. The next one is subject for true-up. Subject for true-up, if that one is selected, the license would always show in a compliant status, even if your available entitlements might be negative, so you might be over-consuming. Subject to true-up means you have a true-up period where you purchase anything that you are overusing within the system. Last but not least is an unlimited entitlement. An unlimited entitlement generally always only has an entitlement quantity of 1, meaning if you purchase 1, the entire organization can use that. By selecting unlimited and saving this license, you will see that it will no longer calculate a shortfall or availability in the all license view. I'm going to save one here so we can see what that would look like. I'm going to close our record for just a moment here. And if you look at our first license here, we marked that for unlimited, and you can see it no longer calculates a shortfall in availability. You can still see all of those calculations by opening up the license. And set this back to as purchased and save and go through this box. The first field is allocated. This would be a cumulative total of anything that has been allocated to the license on the consumption tab. This could be devices or users based on those license types. It is just a total count of how many items are allocated. Used would give you a total count of how many items were used that are consuming this license. If I was to go to the consumption tab, you'll see there's a used yes or no. Used no means that this device hasn't used this software in the last 90 days. This would just be a count of how many of those flags are set to used Yes. Raw installations would be the number of installations on the consumption tab, not the consumption itself, but if it is labeled installed, yes, it will count that as a raw installation. Per savings is product use right savings. When you configure your use rights and rules, any consumption that gets reduced based on that configuration would be a count towards a product use right savings. Again, these are just counts, not dollar figures. Next is calculated consumption. The consumption is calculated based on the configuration of the license type, the use rights and rules, any contract use rights and rules that are coming in, any restrictions that you have. All of those are considered, and you would get a calculated consumption. Overridden consumption is a count of how many devices or users that you've overridden the consumption on. The tool will allow you to override the calculated consumption. Next one is maintenance from purchases. This will let you know how many active maintenances that you have. If the maintenance is expired, it will not be included in the count. In our case, all 70 of ours have active maintenance. When the maintenance runs out on a license such as this, you will get an alert saying that you need to address the maintenance situation either by renewing that. If you do not plan on renewing that maintenance, you can click Plan Not Renewal, and it will make sure this license adds no more additional applications and acknowledge that alert for you.